Hello everyone, welcome back to Disc Review. My name is Max Allen.
And I'm Matthew. Hello.
Today we are going to have a pretty cool discussion because we're going to be talking about something, this album is crazy popular and it's crazy old, to be honest. I couldn't believe when I looked at
20 years
when this came out. 20 years old. Matt, why don't you give us a little introduction into what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, we're going back to Maroon 5, a band I grew up with and have always liked, but it's going to be interesting to kind of talk about this as an adult and kind of how we feel it's aged, being 20 years old. But I think this is a really interesting album. This is Songs About Jane. It's the first record that Maroon 5 released. I think it's really interesting to me because it kind of was this piece that just propelled this band, and obviously the fame that Levine has gone on to accrue just instantly. Like, the amount of success off of the first record is like really impressive to me. Like, how often does a band really do this? Like, only the biggest of stars I've seen, drop one album and just get insane success and fame from it. But yeah, this is gonna be fun to talk about.
I mean, there's so many classics on this album, and it's also going to be interesting to talk about the production style and how it all came about, because I know that we both kind of wanted to talk about the demos that they released as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The demos are very interesting to me, and we can talk about them on a track-by-track basis, but just so people, listening know, they, for their 10th anniversary re-release, they released some demos of the songs, and demos are usually what you create it yourself, kind of, and that's what you send into the studio, right? So that they know kind of what to expect and kind of what you're looking for. But it's in the studio with the producer that really refines how the song sounds and goes a long way, and it's really interesting to hear. I mean, I think they've had such an insane effect on a lot of these songs. The production is what made, I think, some of these songs to just, okay songs to like absolute, iconic, really memorable songs.
Before we get into track by track, let's talk about the name. I mean, I have always been kind of interested to know if Jane is a real person or if they just kind of picked this name at random, or like how it came about. Do you know anything about that?
I didn't look into it. From my just like glance at it, it just seems like they picked a name of a woman and kind of wanted that feel, but it's possible. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know this, but this band's name before they switched names was Kara's Flowers, so another name with a woman's name in the title. I don't know if that's just a trend they liked or something, but yeah, I mean, I like the title. It's interesting. I mean, as far as like on the tracks, you don't really feel like the songs are like about one person, really. I at least I didn't feel that way. Or that it was all aiming towards one concept, and
I wouldn't say so.
No, like so like the title to me doesn't imply that this is like a concept record of all songs about one person. So, but I still like the title. It's just like it's not. I don't think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's dive into Harder to Breathe, which is the first track. In my opinion, I think it's a really good opener. It's very fun, very high energy. The production is really good compared to the demo. But actually, as I was listening through this whole album, I kind of felt like even though it's not like bad production, their newer stuff is so crazy produced. Like the quality is so high that it's almost hard not to compare those two.
Yeah.
So I think I was a little underwhelmed at the production until I went through and listened to the demos, and I was like, oh wow, it was a huge step up from that.
Yeah. I mean,
this has always been one of my favorite Maroon 5 songs, though.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points. I mean, it's kind of inevitable you're going to compare this to modern Maroon 5, seeing where they've gone and the immense success they've had. Like, absolutely. I mean, I listened to their newer stuff, and their production's off the charts. They're masters at producing pop songs, and they have been for a long time. To me, you got to look at this through the lens of, like, a product of its time. Like, this is 2002, this is a totally different scene, and they're at a totally different level of, like, how much money is getting put into their production and how many people are working on it. So, yes, like, absolutely, like, if you're going to compare this to modern Maroon 5, it's not going to sound nearly as good. To me, like, it definitely isn't, like, the highest quality, but, like, I think it's just like the effect that production has. Like the decisions you make are so important. It's not all about like fidelity, you know? It's
Hmm.
not, and I think they made a lot of great choices. But yeah, I mean, I noted about the demo on this one was just that like I think this was the most similar to the final product. Like listening to the demo really doesn't feel like far off from the style and the choices they made. It definitely is just the quality and the fidelity, like just the way it sounds is a lot better in the studio version. But like they didn't really make any like groundbreaking choices with the song, unlike some of the other ones. But I do like this song. This is a great opener. I like the rhythmic breathing. It's a nice touch. It connects with the theme of the song. And I don't really want to repeat myself over and over about this, but their choruses are insane.
Hmm.
On this every song on this record basically has an insanely catchy chorus that could be a single on any other record. But this one is just a really catchy chorus, and it brings some great energy into this record.
Yeah, a couple things that I noticed about the demo versus the studio production. Number one, I felt like the studio was able to just add so much energy in that chorus
Yeah,
versus the demo was like really like the chorus hits and you don't really feel any shift in momentum.
absolutely.
Um, and the other thing I noticed is like these are small choices that are made in mixing, but they matter so much. Like the snare, I noticed that the snare in the demos
Yeah,
sounds really bad. Like it's one of the worst snares I've ever heard. And then the snare, I mean, it's iconic in Harder to
yeah,
Breathe. It opens with that snare, and it's really crisp.
yeah. I agree. Track number two, "This Love." Uh, I have a lot to talk about this song. This song is like from my earliest memories of liking music is "This Love." Like I just remember being a kid and like this was the first song I knew the lyrics to and would like when it would come on in the radio because most of my music just came from my parents' radio selection on the in the car. Right, like back then you didn't really have much control.
Right. Especially in a day when you didn't have Spotify and stuff, like so
Yeah,
hard to find
and
stuff.
I would just beg for this song to stay on, and I've always absolutely loved this song. This is my favorite track on the record, and I mean it's a huge single. So many people know this song. I think it's one of the most like instantly recognizable songs I can think of off the top of my head. I mean that intro is iconic, and I think it deserves the hype. I mean that chorus is insane. It's so catchy, and the lyrics are really clever throughout the whole thing. When I went back through today listening to it, just my favorite part was just that bridge and that final chorus. And I think this is where Maroon 5 shines. And I'll talk about this a lot in a lot of songs. But I think that my favorite thing about this band and what I think Adam Levine does so well is the final chorus. Basically, every Maroon 5 song, if you listen, that final chorus, Adam Levine's just doing his signature just vocal variations, riffing, doing fun things. He'll do a falsetto on a note that wasn't a falsetto in the other choruses, and he'll just have fun with it, and it goes a long way for me. I think that's like if I were to define their style, like that's probably what I would say. And I think it goes such a long way because it just makes you want to listen to it over and over again to get to the part. Like it doesn't feel like you're listening to this formulaic thing where it's the same piece just copy and pasted. Like it feels like there's unique parts to each part of the song, even with it's the same chorus, but it's so different. And one of my favorite things is just like listening to this song and getting to that final chorus, and I just think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a classic right here, and you can tell that even early on, when before they had great production, they always had good songwriting.
Yeah,
Um, and a kind of a staple of good songwriting is being able to take those kind of copy and paste parts and make them unique. Especially with the chorus, I'd say, because when you're making a pop song, you'll play that chorus probably about 3 times, and
yeah,
you don't want it to be the same every time because the listener's going to get bored. Even in a short 2 to 3 minute song, you're going to get bored of that chorus real fast if you're listening to it that many times. But great songwriters will add tweaks and make decisions to improve upon the chorus every single time it's played, so you're always hyped when it comes back around again. And I think that this love displays that perfectly.
yeah. And switching to like the demo of this song, this is probably my pick for where like the production benefited the song the most. Like You're absolutely right. The songwriting was always solid. It is the same song, but man, if that production didn't go so like if you listen to those opening notes on the demo, they're just it's just piano. It sounds a little bit weak. I mean, it's the same note, but you turn on the studio version, it's punchy. It's pronounced with the drums. It feels just way better to listen to. I think that goes a long way, and I don't know. In my opinion, I don't know if this song would have been as big of a hit if it had, if it didn't have this level of, great production. It just the demo just it's still got a catchy chorus, but there's so many other pieces missing. I don't know if it'd be as memorable. Really, it just it kind of turns it's kind of this more piano heartfelt stuff. A little bit into this cool guy breakup song is always what I've thought about it, and also they added a totally different bridge singing section. There was a guitar solo in the demo instead, and I think that bridge is really good and was a great change they made in the production process.
Yeah, the whole album was very piano driven in the demos, and there's still a
Yeah.
lot of piano in the official tracks. They kind of are blended in more with the bass, I'd say, which gives it
Yes.
that
Yeah.
punchiness. It makes it so there's not as much of a gap between the piano and the guitar. It's not so much like two completely different instruments. It's kind of like they all work together in those final versions, which I think that gives it a lot of energy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's some other tracks I think highlight this better, but like absolutely what they do on purpose is meld the piano and even the guitar strums and the bass all into one note, and it really gives them their distinctive sound in my opinion. Like that's really something I noticed they do consistently. But we can move into track number 3, Shiver. I'll let you start on that.
This used to be one of my favorites on the album, and I think that as I've gotten older, I've kind of clung to some of the more poppy ones like This Love and She Will Be Loved. But I still like this one because of the interesting melodies. I think that the guitar does some really kind of out of pocket stuff that you wouldn't expect, but it lands really well. And I think that it's the vocals are just as solid as Harder to Breathe and This Love. I think that the only thing that makes it less poppy is kind of the more interesting melodies, I'd say. The choruses are undeniably catchy in almost every one of these songs, and when you get to Shiver, it still hasn't really let up. And then the guitar solo does kind of rip as well.
Yeah, I kind of thought this was an interesting part to talk about, like Maroon 5's deep cut problem. I feel like, if you look at their stream count, it drops off dramatically on track 3, which is kind of uncommon. I know this isn't a single, but it's just kind of always been interesting to me that like this band has some of the most insane singles ever. They've got 1 billion streams on the next song, and this one has 23 million. I know this is kind of biased. This is an older record, came out well before Spotify was a thing, but this is present on even their newest album. It's the same thing, but I just always thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, this is a fantastic Maroon 5 deep cut to me. Like, definitely interesting sound, another catchy chorus, and I like the guitar solo in this one, and I love he yells sometimes, and it brings a lot of energy into it. And he does that when the chorus comes back in at the end, and it closes out as a really interesting ending as well.
Well, let's move on to She Will Be Loved, and to be honest with you, I think that this is the peak of the album for me right here. I think that, you said that it has 1 billion streams, which is so insane to even think. I can't even process that in my brain. But this song is a classic. It's one of those songs where every single person has heard it. You can't come across a person who hasn't heard this song. The song is 20 years old, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear it on the radio tomorrow.
Yeah, this one, I think the song's been around a long time. This is one of their most iconic songs, and probably the one that put them on the map the most. I've always thought this song just is really intelligent in how it kind of is like it's accessible, but it is also heartfelt and tender in a way that like you can kind of, there obviously is a story, but I think it's so easy to just put it to whatever circumstance you're feeling and really relate to it. even though it is kind of describing a pretty specific story. I've always thought that was interesting. The lyrics are just really clever, and like I said earlier, the final chorus is always incredible, and I think it's really good here. Their final chorus on this is incredible. They've got the two vocal melodies layered, and he's just like riffing as well in the background. There's so much Adam Levine just doing his thing on the end of this song that is really good, and those opening notes are definitely iconic as well. Just that opening guitar piece. But switching to like the demo of this, the opening guitar, like it's not the same notes. It's similar, but they definitely changed it, and I think they made the right call. This one's way more memorable. But one thing I noticed, like about the demo, was they did this really interesting guitar like delay effect during the chorus. I think they kind of use something or something like inspired by that in the song, but it's not nearly as front and center as it is in the demo. But I think they just refined the sound a lot more in that studio version.
It's weird to move on to the next song because I think that the next song is like the worst on the record. The next song is Tangled, and I mean, I'm interested to hear your opinion because maybe I am just the only one who thinks this, but I kind of think the song is bad. I don't really like it. I think it's rough. I think it sounds more like the demos than it does the rest of the album. I don't think it's all that catchy. So I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that's interesting you say that. Like, this is definitely, another deep cut off the record. I don't think this is my least favorite. It's definitely not my favorite deep cut on the record. I get what you mean. I feel like the verses are weak on this one, but I still think the chorus is strong. I think that's what redeems it for me. Like, the chorus, I still think is memorable, and it's got a good guitar solo effect in it, and it's got just great energy at the end. But Maroon 5 kind of always does that. I wouldn't say this is like anything like unique about this song, but they do it again here. Just a great ending that you can jam out to. But yeah, I totally think that's fair. I think this is definitely, if I had to order them, on the weaker side of the deep cuts here. But yeah, we can move on to track number 6, The Sun. Kind of in the same vein as Tangled. But I think still another catchy chorus in my opinion. And I think that's kind of why this record works and propelled them to so much fame. Like, every chorus is just kind of insane. But, and this is another one that uses kind of like interesting instruments to make it sound more unique. And probably my pick for best guitar solo on the record. There's actually a lot more guitar solos than I realized on this record. But I think it's got some good guitar bits. There's like some descending note pattern that I think is really good.
They were definitely a lot more guitar driven in the past than they are today. And this song, I actually think that the verses work pretty well in this one. They're unique. Yeah. And as far as the bridge goes, I think this might be my favorite bridge on the whole record.
It's a memorable bridge. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing about this one is, did you listen to the alternate mix?
Alternate mix? Where's this?
It's at the very bottom of the extended version.
Okay.
It's
yeah, tell me about it.
It's very similar. I mean, when bands release alternate mixes or like a remix, it kind of it means one of two things. Number one, they just wanted to have fun with it and do something different with the song. Number two, the other reason would be they maybe didn't really like the mix that they released originally. I think that the mixes are pretty close, and to the untrained ear, you may not even really recognize a difference. I think that the only real difference I recognized was the guitar was a lot more prominent. You can hear a melody that's kind of pushed to the background in the main mix, but the extra mix kind of just brings it out, makes it a little more guitar driven, and takes out some of the punchy drums, which I'm not exactly sure why, but they kind of removed it from some of the sections.
Okay.
So I just think it's interesting when bands do that.
That is interesting.
I'm not exactly sure why they had this one specifically remixed, but they added it at the very end of their anniversary album.
Yeah, that is interesting. I need to like really listen to it to find a difference, but yeah, it's weird that you haven't felt the need to do that. Like have not really seen that before, but I think it's totally like any creative knows. Like sometimes you release something, but it wasn't quite perfect yet, and you kind of wish you could fix it. That's a common
Yeah.
thing you'll hear from artists, and I think it is interesting when they're like, "No, 100%. Let's try and fix it." But
Yeah.
track number 7 is "Must Get Out." Another deep cut I really like. Kind of encapsulates that like heartfelt Maroon 5 sound. They kind of
Hmm.
have some other songs that sound like this to me, but like not in a bad way, but just it's a style they're good at. I think the best part of the song is the bridge, and I always love it. A lot of songs do it. Song cuts out and just lets the singer sing the chorus, and usually works really well, and it's done well here.
Yeah, I think that for me, Must Get Out was just okay. And I think part of the reason maybe I'm not connecting with the deep cuts as much is because the big hits are songs that I've heard
Yeah.
countless times just in passing on the radio, at stores and movies and stuff. And so recognizing a song for some reason, like it's like a mental thing. Like if you recognize it, you're almost more likely to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so some of these that I don't recognize as much, I think they just didn't connect with me all that much. So Must Get Out wasn't my favorite. I did kind of like the theme that you see a couple times in this record, which is kind of just like being young in a town and in love and trying to escape and break through. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I did like it in that sense, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting kind of perspectives here. Like I'm gonna be way more biased than you. Like I've probably way more listening time listening to the record. I grew up listening to this record a lot. Like I'm very familiar with these songs. It's not like I'm coming to this record being like I've never heard these songs. I'm not really sure what to expect. I know every single one of these songs before I hit play. You know, so like I'm absolutely biased. Like I've just got more connection to the material, and that's kind of why I feel like I'm praising it even more. It's just kind of my experience with it. But track number 8, Sunday Morning. Plenty of people can have experience with this song. This song's very famous.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of like shocked to see the stream count, honestly, because I feel like this one's just as famous as the other two singles, just from my perspective. But it's got considerably lower, still very high. But yeah, I mean, this song is absurdly catchy the whole way through. It's not just a chorus thing. Every single line of this song is catchy, which is why it's so memorable. But just to talk about other things about it, like I just love the unique style and energy of this song. Like it is really unique. I haven't really heard many songs like it. It's just got some really great piano work, and I don't like the upbeat nature of the song is infectious. I've heard song after song that to me sound like them trying to do their Sunday morning. I could name several. I mean, I don't know how many people would get the reference, but like just songs to me that sounded like they were trying to make this upbeat, jazzy song that they wanted to make a Sunday morning, but no, nothing has topped it in my opinion. This is the best one. And Adam Levine's vocal riffing at the end is like on another level to me. He's also like kind of screaming, and it's at the end, and it's great. He does a great job.
Yeah, I felt like the demos kind of had a more jazzy feel, and
Oh yeah,
it's kind of cut away for a more like rock pop feel in the actual versions. But this one, I feel like has a lot of that jazziness still rooted in there. And this song carries a lot of nostalgia for me, not because I listen to it all the time, but I
yeah.
think that I just heard it a lot,
Oh
like
yeah.
on the radio and movies and stuff. I think it's just like reminds me of being a kid because of how often I would hear it when I was a kid. And so that was interesting to realize. I like this song a lot. I think that the only thing I don't like about this song is the tubas or whatever it was in the bridge. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know why. I don't really love brass, and if brass is gonna be good, I think it has to be done really in a specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Woodwinds and brass really get me. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but yeah, the tubas I wasn't huge on, but the rest I really like this song.
I get what you mean. I mean, I'm so like I've known the song for so long. I'm like the tubas are just part of it. I've never really given much thought to it,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you mentioned that. But yeah, I mean, you kind of said it to me. Like listening to the demo of this song, it's so much more jazzy. There's a saxophone in the
Yeah.
background, like for most of the song. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's clear. Like when they went in the studio, it was like they wanted to make this more poppy. But this one keeps the jazz roots the most, like absolutely. And I guess they just knew that you couldn't remove it, like it was so essential to the song. But I mean, they made some good changes. Track number 9 is Secret. Uh, I'm surprised that this is the most streamed deep cut on the record. I don't know if you agree, because this is probably my pick for weakest deep cut. I don't dislike the song. I just think all the other deep cuts are better. The only thing I really noted that I liked was just the chorus coming back for a final time is also really solid. But again, they're always good at that.
Yeah, this song, I mean, now that I look at it, maybe I do like Tangled more than this song. This one's just not as memorable for me. Like, it doesn't have. It definitely breaks the poppy format of the rest of the album and goes for a more
Yeah,
longer, more drawn out ballad. And that. I do like that style, but it's not. I guess it didn't feel like it fit as much here. And so I
yeah.
think that's what makes it a little less memorable. Um, but yeah, I mean, also I do think it probably has the weakest chorus.
I think it has the weakest chorus. Yeah, it's against some tough competition for sure. But this is the only chorus I think I don't know off the top of my head on the
Yeah, I can't
record.
even really think of how it goes
Yeah.
right now, to be honest.
I guess I'm wondering if you have like any idea or insight into like why is this? Am I missing something? Why is this the most streamed deep cut on the record?
I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you on that one.
I just thought that was really odd and I didn't expect that. But track number 10 is Through With You. Uh this was the song for me that kind of like cemented. I was kind of feeling that way about their use of piano and how it combines with other instruments. And this was the one I was like, absolutely, that's what they do. The guitar strums in the song are like basically all backed up with piano. And most of the time you won't even really notice the piano, but if it was gone, you would. Uh, and I think that just kind of like establishes their sound on this record for me. But I think it definitely has another catchy. It's a decent deep cut for me.
You know, it's really interesting. The stuff that you brought up is almost exactly what I wrote in my notes. I mean, I think the instrumental is surprisingly fun here. It's very interesting guitar and bass tones. The piano goes right alongside those guitars in the main melody.
Yep.
And I think that that's something that this whole album explores, which is really enjoyable. I remember being in high school and Simon, my brother, who was on our last episode, I think. Go check that out. The Misadventures episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, my brother Simon has always been really good at the piano, and so we would always try to incorporate the piano into songs that we would write, even though I was trying to write more like guitar-driven stuff. And so I always liked that this album was able to do that successfully.
Yeah. Absolutely. Track number 11 is Not Coming Home, which I don't know if this is going to differ from your opinion, but I have no idea why this is the lowest stream song on the record. Like, this is my pick for most underrated song. Like, obviously the singles are so iconic, but to pick a deep cut, this is it for me. This is just an insanely catchy chorus. The guitar is like simple, but just I think is really good and establishes the tone of the song. And like there's just energy throughout the whole thing. The verse, even like it doesn't let up. It's got some great lyrics and an interesting choice to go with the crowd cheering in the background the whole time, kind of like they're playing it live, but they're not. And yeah, I just really like this one, which I used to not like. Like before, this is probably the one I didn't like as well. But coming back to it this time, I just really liked this one.
I think I definitely agree with you. I think that this is a very underrated song on the record. The intro with the crowd, maybe that's something that throws it off. When I first
Yeah,
put it on, I almost thought that I was listening to a live version.
yeah,
And so I was like, why would they put that on there? But then I realized, oh no, they just overlaid a crowd cheering in the background of their highly professional recording. So, yeah,
Yeah.
which I do think it was kind of a fun artistic choice, but maybe artsy stuff is always gonna hit the general
Yeah.
population a little weird. Some people are gonna like it, some people won't, and so maybe that's why the stream count's a little low.
I think you got it right. Like that's definitely why. Like I think I also thought that earlier. I'm like, why is this live? I don't get it. But I love the choice. Like it really just makes me. I mean, all live songs do this, but I don't know. There's something about it not being live, but making me imagine they're playing like this really uh, professional like song on a stage and just absolutely nailing it, and everyone's loving it. Like that. That's just kind of what I think they were trying to show with that
Hmm.
choice. But yeah, I get why it might not connect with the general populace as much as just like if you're a big fan, this one will probably grow on you. Yeah, track number 12 is Sweetest Goodbye. This is the closer. I think a great closer. Final course again goes really crazy with, a guitar solo continuing into Levine just layering his melodies and riffing in the background. Always fun for me.
Yeah, I definitely understand why they put this one last. It's got elements of the
Yeah.
whole album in here with softer parts and parts that are a little more punchy. And I think this one is a little more of a deep cut for me. Like
Yeah, it
it,
is.
um, I think that if I were to personally structure this album, I think I would have liked to see "She Will Be Loved" as the last song. I think that
I think that's, yeah.
it would have been an amazing choice. But I like I said, I understand why they use this one because it definitely has elements of the whole thing in here. It's kind of like a capstone. It puts it all together. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it works just fine as a closer.
Yeah, I think it works fine as a closer. I think I really considered like how I would restructure this record. I think that would be a fun place to put it. I mean this is the big single, and the big single usually needs to go between tracks 2 and 4. So I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would like you totally it would have worked. Like you totally could have done that. But yeah, I mean this the or yeah, I agree. Like the organization of the song is a little bit strange to me. That Sunday mornings in the 8 spot, which is usually probably one of the weakest spots on a record. I would say consistently of the ones we
Yeah.
reviewed, like around
You
eight
know,
nine
like,
is like
what if people like stopped conforming to this structure?
yeah
Like what would happen if people
yeah.
just I don't
I could
know.
assign like a description to every number. I'd say. I mean, it's not going to get every record, but it's going to get most of them.
It's gonna get like 90% of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
very
I mean, it's
strange.
interesting. They got Shiver in the 3rd spot, but a deep cut. I don't know if maybe it was a single or they thought it would be a single, but I just also thought that was interesting. But I mean, this record's 20 years old. I have no idea what the landscape looked like then. We're biased here to the
Yeah.
Spotify age, and things are going to change even more. I mean, we've been talking about the way that singles have changed, online music and the way people release music is way different. But I think we both, coming from the age we do, we just have a lot of nostalgia for the 3, 4 singles on a record with deep cuts. Like that's just kind
Yeah.
of what we mesh with, and that's the albums we usually pick. And I think sooner rather than later, we're gonna have to start talking about records that are just all singles, and
Yeah.
we'll see how we feel about that. But yeah, I mean, closing thoughts on the record. Maroon 5, I think, deserved the success and fame they got from this one record. I can't believe, like, imagine this being your first record. I don't know. That's just insane. And I think we'll talk about more Maroon 5 in the future. I think I would like to. I think there's plenty to talk about. They're like a really interesting band to me. And just the way
Yeah.
their image has changed and kind of the way they've been able to, and a lot of bands have done this. I think we kind of talked about this with Linkin Park of just like some musicians are so good as a musician they can just adapt to whatever's popular and make really good versions of that. Like Maroon 5 obviously has not stayed in the same style, but they can consistently put out songs that get a billion streams. Like they're just really good at making catchy stuff, and they can do it in any style that they need. They don't need to just do one thing to keep their fans. But yeah, I love this record. This has a lot of nostalgia for me, which is why I praised it so much. And yeah, I still listen to all of Maroon 5 stuff, so we'll talk about them
Yeah,
soon.
I mean, we'll definitely talk about them again because this isn't even my favorite Maroon 5 album. I think that
No,
they've
it's not. Yeah, not
it
for
was a
me.
great starting point and it launched them into fame, but they went on to create some masterpieces and not just
Yeah.
singles, but like whole album structures, which is really interesting. I'm glad you brought up Linkin Park because I think that even though Linkin Park and Maroon 5 are very different bands, they actually kind of have very similar, um, I guess, they both do kind of the same things just in different styles.
Yeah.
Like they both had immediate success off their first album, even though it was on the lower side of production, and then they went on to change styles, reinvent styles almost, and so that was an interesting comparison. But this album, for me, I will always come back to those singles, and I'll listen to the deep cuts every once in a while, but those singles are just classic. I think that they're
Yeah.
genre building, and so I'm glad we were able to talk about them. Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend this to anybody.
Yeah, but I'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't know those singles. Like, absolutely.
For
But
sure.
and those are what I think will stand the test of time. I don't think I'll be forgetting about those songs anytime soon. And yeah, anyways, thanks for listening to and just checking out the channel, and we'll look forward to reviewing some more albums soon.
Yeah, we're on Spotify now. We just barely joined Spotify, so I'll link our Spotify in the description here.
Yeah.
But please check us out there as well. We could really use any support right now. We're we're struggling out here, so please support us a little bit. We love you. Thank you for listening, and we hope we can get some more episodes out soon.